Welcome to this recorded workshop, which forms part of the launch pack and series of events of Unison's Year of Green activity. This workshop can be used as part of the branch development session to promote discussion within the branch or group on Unison's Year of Green activity, which is to tackle climate change where we live and work and plan activities this year and beyond that will have a sustainable, positive impact. In this workshop, we aim to cover an understanding of climate change in a nutshell, understanding some climate change terms, why climate change is a core Unison business. We'll look at individual and collective action and the role of the branch environmental officer. We recognise that many of us already have a general understanding of climate change, its causes, impacts, and potential solutions. So rather than visiting the basics, we've selected a couple of short films from the BBC that explain climate change in under 6 minutes. These videos offer clear, concise insights and are a great refresher or a starting point for further discussion.
Climate change describes long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns. Earth has always had cycles of warming and cooling. Milankovitch cycles, changes in the Earth's orbit around the Sun, and the tilt and wobble of the planet's axis impact global temperatures over thousands of years. Solar variations such as sunspots and solar flares can lower or raise global temperatures, while variations in ocean currents, which transport heat from the equator to the poles, also affect nearby climates. Volcanic eruptions release particles into the atmosphere that absorb solar energy, leading to periods of cooler temperatures. However, it's human activity that has had the most impact on global temperatures. Since the Industrial Revolution, vast amounts of greenhouse gases have been released into the atmosphere. These gases absorb and trap heat, acting like a blanket around Earth and increasing global temperatures. Burning fossil fuels results in carbon dioxide emissions. Methane, a gas produced by cattle, landfills, and paddy fields, has increased in the atmosphere as populations have grown, also contributing to the heating effect. Nitrous oxide from fertilizers and vehicle emissions plays a role too, as do CFCs, a group of chemicals which, though now largely banned, were once common in packaging and cooling systems. Meanwhile, deforestation reduces the planet's ability to absorb CO2. The effects of climate change are profound. Rising sea levels and increasingly severe storms, flooding, and drought disrupt human lives and ecosystems alike. Wildlife suffers as habitats like the Amazon, Arctic, and coral reefs face irreversible changes. Economically, regions near the tropics, mostly in developing countries, suffer the most from climate impacts, stalling financial development. But the impact is also apparent in the UK, with storms and flooding damaging homes, businesses, and infrastructure like roads and railways, and dry conditions and flooding ruining crops. Climate change poses a significant threat to the planet. Central to this issue are greenhouse gas emissions, trapping heat in the Earth's atmosphere and causing global temperatures to rise. Global efforts to reach net zero emissions aim to balance the amount of greenhouse gases produced with the amount removed from the atmosphere. Scotland aims to reach net zero by 2045. The UK target is 2050. Individuals can lower emissions by using public transport and energy-efficient vehicles, reducing energy use, reusing plastics, and recycling. Cities across the UK are introducing low-emission zones to reduce vehicle pollution. whilst initiatives like cycle to school schemes help reduce reliance on cars. Nationally, the UK plans to ban the sale of new petrol and diesel cars by 2035, promoting cleaner transport by reducing road tax for more eco-friendly vehicles and funding for electric charge points. And since 2013, the Scottish and UK governments have offered interest-free loans to help people install solar panels and air source heat pumps. Governments meet at world summits that agree strategies and commit to combating climate change and mitigate its impact. At COP26, held in Glasgow in 2021, the rulebook for the Paris Agreement, signed by 196 nations in 2015, was completed. The rulebook provides guidelines on how countries will deliver on their climate action policies. The Glasgow Climate Pact was also signed, strengthening these commitments. However, unlike the Paris Agreement, pacts like this are not legally binding, making it challenging to enforce and hold nations accountable if they fail to meet their targets. The impacts of climate change are already being felt worldwide. Rising sea levels threaten coastal communities, floods and droughts disrupt food and water supplies, and higher temperatures increase risks of heat waves and wildfires, endangering human well-being and the environment. Addressing these challenges demands collective action and innovative solutions to safeguard the planet for future generations.
In addition to what you've heard, it is perhaps shocking that pollution alone now accounts for over 6 million excess deaths a year globally, outstripping deaths from war, drugs, alcohol, malaria, and HIV combined. And this year, the UK has had its first cases of disease bearing mosquitoes because of the warmer climate. But it's not all doom and gloom. While the challenges are real, there are powerful examples of what we can achieve through collective action. One standout success is the recovery of the ozone layer, a testament to global cooperation and science-led policy. In the 1980s, scientists discovered a massive ozone hole over Antarctica caused by chemicals like CFCs that eroded Earth's shield against harmful UV radiation. The world responded decisively, and nearly 200 countries came together to sign the Montreal Protocol in 1987, pledging to phase out ozone-depleting substances. Thanks to strong enforcement and ongoing updates, the ozone layer has been steadily healing, and scientists now expect a full recovery by the middle of this century. It's a clear reminder that when we act together, we can reverse even serious environmental damage. Now, there is a lot of jargon around climate change, and this language can be alienating to a lot of people. Hopefully, here we can help you understand the terms that are important to our year of green activity. Net zero. Net zero is a term you will hear frequently in the media. It essentially means balancing the amount of greenhouse gases emitted with the amount removed from the atmosphere, ensuring no overall increase in emissions. Most Western governments have set net zero targets, with most aiming for 2050. So, mitigation and adaptation. These are two key approaches to addressing climate change. Firstly, mitigation involves transforming to a low-carbon economy through measures such as shifting from coal or oil-powered electricity generation to renewable, non-polluting energy, reducing or eliminating transportation systems dependent on fossil fuels and improving public transport service, changing production systems away from the use of carbon-based chemicals and plastics. Adaptation focuses on adjusting to the effects of climate change. Since some climate changes are inevitable, adaptation helps communities to become more resilient to climate change through measures such as planting trees in areas where trees have been cut down for firewood or to make way for growing crops and the soil that has become eroded, or changing working practices to cope with higher summer temperatures, or improving the stormwater drainage systems to deal with floods, or changing crops grown in a particular area because of changes in the weather, such as developing drought-resistant crops. Different countries prioritise mitigation and adaptation based on their unique circumstances. For a country like China, which is the world's largest emitter of greenhouse gases, the emphasis should be on mitigation, that of reducing reliance on fossil fuels, increasing renewable energy use, and implementing carbon capture technologies. On the other hand, for a country like Bangladesh, which contributes to little global emissions but faces severe climate impacts such as rising sea levels and extreme weather, the emphasis is more on adaptation, building resilient infrastructure, improving disaster preparedness, and developing flood-resistant housing. Both approaches are necessary, but the balance depends on a country's role in climate change and its vulnerability to its effects. Now, just transition. This means making the shift to a greener, low-carbon economy in a way that is fair and inclusive. It ensures that workers, communities and countries most affected by the change are supported through job retraining, economic investment and social protections. The goal is to tackle climate change without leaving anyone behind. We will now show you a short film from the Institute for Public Policy Research about just transition, and they put it much succinctly than we can.
We know that the UK has to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions to be net zero by 2050 at the very latest. What impact might these changes have for people across the country? And will it affect some more than others? Already the effects of climate change, like flooding and heat waves, disproportionately impact those who are least responsible, particularly the poorest in society. The richest countries in the world make up only 16% of the global population, but are responsible for just under half of all CO2 emissions. And the richest people within those countries have the highest footprint. In the UK, the highest 5% of income earners have a 42% higher carbon footprint than the lowest 5%. But it's not just the direct effects of climate change that could affect those least responsible. It's also the policy response to climate change. In the UK, badly thought through policy could exacerbate existing weaknesses in the UK economy. An economy with low carbon public transport and home heating and electric vehicles sounds appealing, but needs to be affordable for everyone. And policies must be careful not to exacerbate regional inequality, since most people in greenhouse gas intensive industries can be found in regions that are already underinvested in. We cannot afford to repeat the mistakes of the past, where deindustrialisation and the abrupt closure of coal mines was enacted without any thought or preparation for the impact this had on workers. And it's not just workers and communities in the UK. The action we take here has ripple effects on the international stage and for future generations. For example, we have to ensure new industries, like electric vehicle manufacturing, uses materials from ethical sources. We have to stop importing unsustainable biomass from the south of the United States, the vast majority of which leads to the destruction of local biodiversity and increased local emissions. And we have to stop pension funds from increasing the dependency of elder generations on fossil fuel wealth at the expense of future generations. We could go on, but the key point is that every action the UK takes on climate change must consider the impact on workers, communities and individuals at home, abroad and with future generations in mind. Only then can we have a truly just transition.
Now let's consider why the climate emergency is a core Unison business.
So why is the climate crisis a core trade union issue generally, and for Unison in particular? Unison was one of the first trade unions to recognise climate change as an important issue that affects every member, their families and the communities they live in. We sent messages of support in 1995 to the first ever global climate meeting and helped establish the TUC's Trade Union Sustainable Development Advisory Committee in 1998. We recognise that climate change impacts many core trade union and Unison-specific issues like public finances and resources, job security and workplace safety. And we recognise that climate change would impact on all the services our members deliver. And we know that it is an increasingly important issue for our members. Our recent all-member survey showed that 93% were concerned about climate change, with 50% saying they were very concerned, and 1 in 5 reported ways in which their job was already being negatively impacted by climate change. And I'm sure many of you will be able to give examples of how extreme temperatures, flooding, or pollution are impacting your lives and work. As a public service union, Unison is uniquely positioned to campaign for a just transition, to demand climate resilient infrastructure and ensure that our members aren't left behind in the shift to a greener economy. But let's look more closely at how climate change is already affecting our public services. So climate change is already placing a significant and growing strain on public finances. With rising costs of food and energy directly linked to extreme weather, there are increasing health impacts, disruptions across public services, clearing up after floods and fires all cost money. And it's increasingly difficult and expensive to heat and cool our buildings with old technology not fit for the changing environment we live in. And those are just some of the ways that our public finances are already affected. And the cost of doing nothing are unacceptable. When talking about the costs of meeting our net zero targets, climate deniers will often overlook the fact that the cost of doing nothing, both in human and financial terms, vastly outweigh the costs of acting now. We can't delay action until a more convenient time. Failing to act only intensifies the pressures on our essential services, including the NHS, social care and the environment agencies, leading to more emergencies and greater demand on already stretched resources. Our own research showed that unless most of the transition work is done by 2030, the additional costs would be huge because of the additional damage done and by delaying some of the changes that will lead to future savings. When talking about the costs of climate change, a stitch in time really does save 9, and the Independent Climate Change Committee agrees with us. Which leads us on to one of the main reasons this is a particular area of concern for Unison. Public services are the social infrastructure we rely on to pick up the pieces of any emergency. It is public services, our members, that are expected to manage the consequences, often without adequate support or recognition. They're playing a vital role in protecting communities and maintaining public well-being. And of course, these pressures also reshape jobs and the skills we need. Public sector employers are now legally required to plan for net zero emissions, reshaping services and impacting jobs. As the UK shifts to a low carbon economy, public service delivery and infrastructure will change. Decarbonising and adapting buildings, changing transport options and introducing new ways to support communities through climate impacts. Every public service will be affected, and many of our private and voluntary sectors will be expected to follow suit. As a trade union, we know how important it is that workers are central to planning the necessary changes. Trade unions are calling for a just transition, ensuring our members and communities are consulted on changes on the relevant additional training, on the resources that will be needed, and where jobs are under threat, workers need to be supported into secure, climate resilient roles. But it's not all bad news. Many new jobs will be created as part of the changes. Public sector green jobs are expanding to meet the new skills and expertise required to manage and maintain the greener ways of working. And whilst these changes offer promise, they raise concerns about funding, training access and trade union voice. So unions are key. As with any large-scale work transformations, unions have a vital role to play. They help to protect workers, ensuring worker experience and voices are heard, advocating for reskilling and in pushing for a fair, inclusive green transition. Rising workplace temperatures and extreme weather are not distant threats. They're happening now. From schools and hospitals to offices and outdoor work, many working environments are becoming less safe and more uncomfortable. Our members are reporting personal health impacts and disruption from extreme weather events and real impacts on their ability to deliver a service safely for themselves and others. And we know that the adaptations aimed at supporting a green transition often come with unforeseen consequences. Members are adapting to new ways of running buildings, delivering services, and using energy, frequently without adequate training or preparation. And of course, many of our members are in roles that are all about dealing with the climate crisis in their day-to-day job, cleaning up our waterways and coastlines, responding to floods, heat waves, wildfires, and other emergencies, often with limited resources in the face of increasing demand. And we also know that climate change doesn't affect everyone equally. Fairness matters. As we all know, trade unions use their voice to address more than just workplace issues. Unison members see firsthand how climate events impact the communities they serve. While climate change affects everyone, it doesn't do so equally. In the UK and globally, climate change deepens existing inequalities. We'll be exploring these issues in depth in special highlight activities throughout the year, but some examples include charging points for electric vehicles are being built that are unusable by disabled drivers and which create obstacles for disabled pedestrians. Black members and people in poorer urban areas are disproportionately made chronically unwell from climate change-related harms such as air pollution. Women still take on a disproportionate burden of caregiving, feeding, housing and warming their families, all of which is becoming unaffordable, directly linked to the global impacts of the climate crisis. And managing menopause symptoms and extreme temperatures is affecting women's health too. Not to mention the obviously disproportionate impact of extreme heat, cold and floods on older and disabled people. And there are many more examples we could give. That's why a just transition includes the need to design policies that include the voices of and reflect the realities of those who are most affected, because climate justice is about people's lives and health as much as carbon. But despite these challenges, there are real reasons to stay hopeful.
Hope matters. When people feel powerless, they stop acting. But we're not powerless. There are evidence-based reasons to stay hopeful on climate change. The UK government is committed to net zero. However, more action is needed both globally and nationally. The Independent Climate Change Committee says we can still meet our targets if we make the right choices now. There are big wins in renewables. As of 2025, renewables power over 40% of UK electricity. Offshore wind is a major driver, creating thousands of jobs, especially in former industrial regions. Globally, renewable energy has now taken over coal. This is a huge milestone. Innovation is accelerating and green innovation is thriving. Modern technologies and solutions are coming online all the time. The sector is fast-moving, creative and packed with opportunity. However, there's no room for complacency. We can't sit back, there's still a lot to do. Climate change is a workplace issue that impacts upon jobs, working conditions and our communities. This is why Unison is leading the call for a just transition. So are we winning yet? Not entirely, but we're making huge progress. The way forward, with the right investment, strong coordination and our collective voice, we can build a fair net zero future. Our members are at the heart of that future. Scientists agree the solutions are within reach, so let's stay hopeful, stay active and keep pushing for change. Let's be clear, climate change is not your responsibility to fix. Governments and corporations carry the biggest responsibility. However, that doesn't mean that we're powerless. Individual actions matter. Many of us want to help, and small, consistent actions add up, especially when we act together. We'll talk about collective action shortly. So let's start with what you can do personally. Don't be overwhelmed and take action step by step. Check out our individual inspiration list on the website and pick one or two things that are doable and build from there. Our members have shared a few ideas with us. Cutting food waste is easy and effective. Freeze leftovers and reuse what you can. Try meat-free Mondays. A small shift can have with an enormous impact. You don't need big upgrades in terms of energy saving. Draft excluders, closing doors and turning the heating down a couple of degrees help. Heat people, not rooms. Electric blankets are cheap to run and keep you warm. Fast fashion is a major carbon driver. Buy less, buy better, and use charity shops and apps like Vinted. When travelling, walk and cycle where you can. Use public transport. These cut emissions and boost your health. Look at your tech choices. AI tools such as ChatGPT use serious energy. Cut down where you can. Switch to ethical mobile providers such as EcoTalk, which fund UK nature restoration. This all matters. No single action is a silver bullet, but they are practical, affordable, and add up. Every step builds momentum for bigger change. Start small, stay hopeful, and share what works. We can make a difference together with the power of collective action. So this is our year of green activity, which is a chance to campaign for greener, safer, healthier workplaces and communities. Together we can shape public services for our future. Our branches play a key role in climate action. We need to be part of the employers' net zero planning, especially during strategy setting, budgeting and priority setting. Marginalised voices must be central to these conversations. Get involved locally, join green groups, create green space and campaign for change. Build links with the local community, support UK-wide and global campaigns too. Encourage your branch to get active. Climate change affects your job. Explore our branch Green Actions Inspiration List and bargaining on green issues toolkits. Some ideas include campaigning for an extreme weather action plan, adding net zero to branch committee agendas and appointing a branch environment officer, recruiting green reps in workplaces and using the Green Workplace Inspection Proforma. Every action counts. Local and regional organising builds national momentum, and when we speak together, we are much harder to ignore. So what do branch environmental officers do? They hold a key role in every branch. Training is available, so you're not on your own. If you are new, start small. Be a contact person on climate issues, share information and conduct basic audits of your employer's actions. There is only one formal environmental officer in a branch. However, you can have unlimited green reps in workplaces. These reps can share the load, organise in workplaces and take actions aligned with your branch. Your branch can develop a green committee. Teamwork is key. Link up with other branch officers. Many environmental issues have health and safety or equality implications. Collaboration equals bigger impact. If you want to get involved, speak to your branch secretary and visit our website for information and resources.
So what is Unison doing to support this work? 5 years ago, we brought all of our green work into one campaign called Green Unison. And in 2022, we introduced the formal role of Branch Environmental Officer. There are regional networks to support green activists and to share good practice, and a national newsletter that any member can sign up to keep updated on this work. There is a new comprehensive toolkit and bargaining guide with more policy guides coming soon. There's training, guidance and resources for activists, general, local government and health-specific training so far, with more planned. We're also planning bite-sized modules for members as a starting point for learning more. We have a dedicated annual Green Unison Week in mid-September, where we hold special events focusing on climate change in the workplace and encourage everyone to get involved and mark the week in any way they can. And of course, we do the usual policy work of influencing governments to do what they must to meet the challenges of the climate emergency. And then there is this year of green activity. So the aim of this dedicated year of green activity is to highlight what we're already doing and to inspire members and branches to get engaged. There are opportunities to connect, learn and take action. Our programme features highlight months on key sectors and equality groups, with lunchtime webinars to showcase specific impacts or issues affecting our members. Branches and individual members can pick up from a menu of suggested possible actions and join political campaigns on winnable issues like workplace temperature limits and investment in public transport. We'll celebrate creativity with the Green Unison Mini Film Festival in September, where branches can host film nights alongside communal virtual screenings. Just take a look at our website to see the details of the 3 films we've chosen and to find trailers. And members can amplify their voices through social media on key dates like Refugee Week and Earth Day, while editorial content throughout the year will spotlight different aspects of Green Unison. You can see the whole schedule of activity on our dedicated Year of Green Activity web pages, where you can find out more and register for any events that you like the look of. And look out for tailored regional and sector plans too. The Year of Green Activity is a highlight, but not an endpoint. This work will continue into the future. And together with all of you, we're hoping to build the momentum for change, 1 month, one action, and one conversation at a time. We are part of the solution. And now it's over to you. But before we go to the final slide on the next steps for your branch, we have a small message of support recorded especially for our members for this Year of Green Activity.
It doesn't have to go south. It can go somewhere great, but we've got to do it. And I can't think of a better bunch of people to be on board. People with integrity, people who know what life is really about. People know what work is really about. So come on, let's pull together, because collectively we have to make a difference, and we have to do it now. So in whatever way you can, in your workplace or in your personal life, this is the time to stand up and be counted. I know you will. Thank you.
And you can see the full message of support from Chris on our website. This is your opportunity to have a discussion as a branch or group to consider what you can do during Unison's Year of Green Activity and beyond to make any actions and activities not only meaningful, but sustainable. We have 3 questions to get you started to plan what activities you can do. So question 1 is consider how you might engage more on climate change as a branch. What is happening that you can get involved in across your sector, with your employer, and in your local communities, and what could you do as a branch that links in? Question 2 is, have you filled your environmental officer position? If you haven't, how would you go about getting interest, and where might you seek that interest and involvement? Laos have developed training for the environmental officer role, so you can contact your region for more information. And question 3, will you need another meeting to swap ideas and formulate a plan of activity? This is possibly a leading question, but hopefully you can generate some great ideas in this discussion. So the next step is developing them into an action plan. We will leave this recording on this slide to enable you to have a discussion now to start planning your next steps. Please do keep in touch and let us know your plans and successes that you have throughout this year.